thank you for for attending. This is calling back the open session of the August 21st regular workshop and meeting and workshop of the Sacramento City Unified School District. Before we begin, I would like to invite the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Angelina Cortez and Sabrina Cortez, students and twin sisters from Bret Harte Elementary School. Thank you. Can you make it up there?
Yeah.
Is there the steps up there?
Thank you. With one.
Gerardo, raise the microphone for them too. All right, thank you.
What? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Don't leave. Don't leave. So we have a little presentation for you. Am I supposed to read something?
Yes. So today we celebrate Angelina and Sabrina Cortez as our stellar students. Angelina and Sabrina are twin sisters from Bret Harte Elementary School and will be entering the third grade this fall. Together they have amassed dozens of awards and recognitions. Angelina has won such awards as Most Educational, the Responsibility and Fairness Award, the Hardest Effort Award, Student of the Month, and was recently on the honor roll. I don't know what else is left for you, but hopefully we can find some more for you. Sabrina has also won the Great Character Award, the Character and Respect Award, the Student of the Month Award, and was also recently on the honor roll. And they also both have perfect attendance. Oh, that's great, Sabrina. Congratulations. Aside from academics, these sisters are also active in their after-school program community. Angelina invites others to join in with playtime, and while Sabrina helps to tutor her classmates who need extra help with homework. Even at this early age, Angelina and Sabrina have shown a great dedication to their school and their education, and to their friends, which is very important. Their mother, Elizabeth, says she is extremely proud to have raised two intelligent young girls who are very similar in educational achievement, but different in personality. Teachers, program supervisors, site coordinators all agree the Cortez twins are motivated, ambitious, creative, future leaders of the next generation. The Board of Education is proud to recognize both of you, Angelina and Sabrina Cortez, as our stellar students. Congratulations.
And would either of you or both of you like to say a few words? Okay, shy, huh? Well, we have certificates for you. And so this is a great time for Mommy and Daddy to take pictures. So, congratulations and have a great school year. Thank you. Okay, item 5.0, announcements of action taken in closed session.
Yes, thank you, President Wu. It is my pleasure to announce that we have a new principal joining our leadership team here in Sacramento City Unified. I'd like to welcome Lynn Rubalcava. She will be the next principal at Susan B. Anthony. Lynn has been in the district for a number of years. She most recently has been at Hiram Johnson High School. She has been key in the professional development of the teachers there at the school, both with the new Common Core curriculum, assessments, and benchmarks. So welcome.
Congratulations. Okay, item 6.0, agenda adoption. I have a motion to move the agenda. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Member Hanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Now we have our standard admonition.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the government affairs channel on the Comcast and Sure West cable systems. Today's meeting will air Sunday, August 24th at 9 a.m., Monday, August 25th at noon, and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located in the back of the community room and give it to the Chief Communications Officer, who's not here. Janet, please give it to Miss Janet Weeks. Prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation, please speak into the microphone when addressing the board. State your name for the record. Responses to the questions by public will be posted on the district's website prior to the next board meeting. Please limit comments during public comment to the items not listed on the agenda. If you are found to be commenting on an item that is on the agenda, you will be asked to defer your item until it comes up on the agenda. Please turn off all cell phones and place them on silent or vibrate.
Thank you. All right. Item 7.0, public comment. Do we have any public comment in this week's?
Yes, we do. We have two, Max Mendoza and Ralph Merletti.
Thank you. Mr. Mendoza.
Good evening. President Wu and board members. My name is Max Mendoza. I just want to show a few pictures, and I want to find out where we're all at. I have this
The overhead, please.
thing working. Working then, huh?
Not yet. Just in a few minutes. I think we have to get the hamsters to start the generator to get the
okay.
electricity to light the bulb.
One of them gas generators.
No, hamster
Honda.
generator.
All right, we've been working and cleaning all these schools up, but this is Woodbine. This is Woodbine when the principal was Nancy Purcell, and Jim Sweeney was our superintendent of schools. And that's how that looked. And this is what got my attention right here. If you can see that rust, it's one of those downspouts. And when I seen that, I said, man, this whole place is being neglected. And I think that that's a disgrace to all of us, especially the school board. And that stain there, it's gone now because I guess they painted it. But, you know, this school here, nobody cares about it. So I did a little research on this school. And I went to the county as well as the city. They gave me a printout who owned this property. Turns out that nobody wants to claim it. And this property was awarded to the Sacramento Unified School District, and this was in 1965. And it's still waiting for somebody to claim it. It's like an orphan, something like it's in the closet, you got to get it out. But anyway, wanted to show you with some of these pictures. What I'm really concerned about is the lights. Contacted some friends with the ADA. Doesn't show it too good, but you can see right there where it's been disconnected. Let me turn it this way. And it's been like that for about, I'm going to say, every bit of 20 years. And this is on 53rd Avenue in Woodbine. And I've reported this many times to the city, to the Department of Transportation, Utilities. And finally we got to the ADA, because there's some issues there ADA has to get into. And there's another light just like it, but it's on Ettinger and Woodbine. And it gets dark, so a lot of the parents can't go to the PTA meetings or when they have a program because it's awful dark in that area. There's a lot of blight, a lot of poor people. And it's something that we have to deal with, and I think at the school board, with all of us and with all the agencies that we have in the city council, Jay Chenier, he used to be a board member, we got to get on these guys because once they leave us, it's gone. But it goes with it because they're part of this history. They're part of this school district. And all I'm trying to do with your help is to make it better for all our kids because our kids count too. And when it comes to poor kids, we're having a lot of trouble with poor people all over the world. Here in America, you can see what's happening in Missouri. It'll happen here too if we don't take care of our business because they count. I want to show you this last picture, and this one here was given to us on Night Out. Sacramento has a night out every year. And this is a beautiful picture, but it's probably in some rich neighborhood because I've never seen nothing so beautiful like this. And our kids would be happy to be able to get on bars that look so beautiful. The landscape is just A1. And these are things that we don't have in our communities. But when it comes to everybody doing their job, especially if we have a director that's in charge with maintenance, we got to get him on board. And if there's a reason, I like him to tell me why. But we've made all the research to find out who is responsible and who's going to be accountable. Because if they have positions here at the school board and they don't do anything, they got to go because I feel that you're throwing money away. I got one more picture that I want to show. And that one there is this school over here that they closed down. And I have more pictures, but I want to show this one here. They put in a soccer field right after it was closed. And a lot of people in the neighborhood, they asked me, what are they doing out there? So I said, I don't know. But it was a soccer field because I went out and spoke to the contractor, and that's what it was going to be. It's been shut down since, I want to say, since school was out last year. And now it's still closed. They went in the other day and they forgot to put in a storm drain. So a lot of the sod that was in there, they had to tear it all up. And to me, that's a waste of money. And I know I worked in the construction industry. If we made mistakes like that, we were fired. You got to be productive. And I want to find out if that's the way they do it. And then they put a sign there that's so sad, field closed. A school that they close, kids don't have no place to go and play. And yet you want to put a sign, that's an insult. To me, it's an insult. And I think it's an insult to every one of you guys as our leaders, so to say, board of directors, school board members, whatever the title is. I know we can do better. And I like to confront whoever's the superintendent that runs these issues for the school district because, you know, this is not right. And I think that everybody's got to be accountable because if you get paid, I mean, you got to be accountable. If not, get rid of them. That's all I have to say, and I hope that we can have a good year this year, next year, and all the other years to come because I'm going to be coming to these meetings. And getting up there a little bit on age, but I love coming here, especially if you guys can do something that's productive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Is it possible to save a copy or share a copy of the pictures that you have with
Yeah,
our staff?
I got
so
a
that
lot
they
of them
can-
if you want them. I'd love that.
The ones that you shared with us
Right now?
today, if you could share with our staff so they can look into it.
I can leave them right here with the lady.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marletti.
Good evening, Sacramento City Unified School District School Board with Superintendent Banda, and I see Sarah standing in there, and Board President Darrell Wu. I'm Ralph Merletti from the Fruit Ridge area of Sacramento County, surrounded by the city of Sacramento. And the first item I want to comment on is Section 8.1D of the last meeting, in which I had forgotten to mention something about that I had seen on that section of the August 7th meeting, and that was the discussion of the Community Facilities District Number 2, a special tax report for the fiscal year 2014-2015. The main issue is this. Circled a couple of things on here. When you get maps from these contractors or whoever is doing it, you might take a closer look at this. Both of these are located close to the area where I live, near Fruit Ridge and 44th on Sweetwater. And 50 and 99 are not together on the freeway to the south of the 50. 50 and 99 are combined together on the east-west route, which I think they call WX, but not where it's crossing 47 or Fruit Ridge. So that's the error I wanted to point out there. As a trained geographer, Okay, so that's, I know those minutes were, and the item was already passed last time, but that's what I had noticed, and with a lot of several other things on my mind that evening, I forgot. Okay, now may I say something on a second issue, and that is the issue of charter schools.
Make it quick.
Say again?
If you make it quick.
Yeah. Why don't we run all of the schools in our district like charter schools? There seems to be so much wanting to get charter schools. So like, the one we had, Bonheim, the empty school now being put into a charter school there. Why don't we run the whole district like that? Why don't we have a charter school atmosphere for Sacramento City Unified School District? That's what I would like all of you to consider. Because then the parents and the students will be getting what they really want. If they're looking for charter schools, they're not happy with what they're experiencing so far. That's my impression of it, besides just wanting something else. So I would ask all of you to consider that idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marletti. Moving on to item 8.0.
Excuse me, President Wu? There's one more speaker.
You snuck one in. All right, call him up.
Edward Camargo.
Mr. Camargo, please.
Good evening, board members. I'm up here tonight just to invite every single one of you to an event that Pacific Elementary is having this weekend. This weekend, we're going to be out planting trees out in the area between the school and the park. It's going to be over 100 trees that we're going to plant out there. I'd like to invite every single one of you to come out and help if you'd like. The event's going to start about 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going to meet in front of the school, and then it should go around noon. We are going to have light snacks and some refreshments there. So that's all I wanted to invite you guys for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This Saturday or Sunday?
That is this Saturday.
Go ahead, member.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it starts at 10.
start.
I have to be there at 8, so excuse me.
You need it. It's good to have help at 8, right? Too. Can you give us the address? Or if you have it, or send it to us, or we can.
I can
publicize
send it to you to Pacific Elementary. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying anybody that sees this live, we want to let them know where. So it's Pacific Elementary. They can Google it or go to the website for the district and get the address there. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more Miss Weeks? Thank you. Item 8.0, consent agenda. Do I have any, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a
Second.
motion by Vice President Pritchett, second by Vice President Hanson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, Board Workshop, Strategic Plan, and Other Initiatives. 9.1, Foster Youth Services. Ms. Allen? Ms. Bell?
I promise I didn't tell people to stay home. Good evening, Board President Wu, Dr. Noguchi, and members of the board. My name is Stacy Bell, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Youth Development Director. I've been in this position since 2010. Tonight, I'm excited to present our Foster Youth Services Department to you and present for your review a new Foster Youth Services Board policy. Tonight, we hope to develop a working understanding of the Foster Youth Services Department, learning more about the children we serve, as well as the supports we provide. We will also have an opportunity to discuss the new Foster Youth Services Board policy. As you can see, we will also be looking at foster youth data, talking about local control funding formula, as well as foster youth engagement. To provide context, Foster Youth Services lives within the Youth Development Department. We provide many different types of programming for our youth and are 99% funded by grants and categorical funds. The great work of our department would not happen without the extremely hard work of our amazing staff, as well as our community partners, parents, and of course, our fantastic students. As I think you already know, our motto in youth development is Whole Child, Whole Year. As Youth Development Director, I oversee 4 main bodies of work: expanded learning, youth engagement, targeted prevention and intervention, as well as, of course, foster youth services. My expanded learning coordinator, Britt Irby, is also here, and her unit provides direct service to over 14,000 students before school, after school, and summer. Our targeted prevention and intervention and foster youth services units serve fewer youth, but as you can imagine, the work is much more intense. So with that, I would like to introduce Aliyah Holmes, who is here tonight to talk specifically about the work of foster youth. Aliyah started in foster youth services as an intern many years ago, and has been the foster youth services coordinator since 2010. It is Aliyah's first time presenting to the board, so please be nice.
We'll take it out on you, Ms. Bell.
Thank you. So good evening again, Board President Wu, Dr. Noguchi, and fellow board members. I'm super excited to be here tonight. As Stacy said, I've been with Foster Youth Services for almost 13 years this coming January as a graduate student intern, and I stayed here because I love what I do and I love the kids. Super excited to be here tonight. Normally in the Youth Development Department, we usually have young people who help us co-present, but in order to protect the confidentiality of our foster youth, I will actually be doing this presentation alone tonight. We used our young people to help create the video that you are about to watch. Some of the photos you'll see have been blurred out, of course, to protect our youth's identity. The title of this video is called The Invisible Population, which comes from our youth who oftentimes feel that they are not seen or not heard. So without further ado, please start the video.
all the odds were stacked against me, you know. I came from a single black parent, no mother, no father, foster child, bad attitude. I wasn't supposed to be here.
Youth in foster care have experienced various traumatic events that have led to them being removed from their homes. The Foster Youth Services Department recognizes the unique educational, social, and emotional needs of youth in care. We understand the effects of trauma and the impact it has on a child's learning and academic success. In spite of obstacles and challenges laid before them, our students are still going to college.
The Foster Youth Talent Showcase is held annually with neighboring school districts during the month of May, which is Foster Youth Awareness Month. The showcase is an opportunity for foster youth to shine, make connections with peers, and be applauded for standing tall while facing adversity.
For many of our youth, these outings are their first experience beyond Sacramento and with the outdoors. These trips allow the youth to make genuine connections with their peers and positive adults, while also enhancing their own self-esteem and sense of accomplishment.
Child Shower Days provide foster youth with an opportunity to meet employees and interact with workplace mentors. During the day-long event, youth learn about career paths, preparation required for working in a particular field, and how to gain knowledge and skills required to be successful in the job market.
I see you through a window, Riley. No one is scared
Just so you know, man.
As a foster youth, I took a route that other youth shouldn't have to. Despite my disadvantages, it made me who I am today and lead me to wonderful people along the way. Thank you, Foster Youth Services, for giving me an opportunity to find myself.
Okay, so you just saw our wonderful video that our students helped create the concept for, and Mr. Bell helped us put together. So, what is the definition of a foster youth? Of course, a foster youth is a child who has been removed from their home and placed into protective custody by the child welfare or juvenile justice system. As you look at your screen, you can see that our children reside in several types of places, including with foster parents and or with relatives. AB 12 is a new law that was passed a few years ago that now extends foster care for youth up through the age of 21. From the statistics you saw in the video, you see that nationwide foster youth were experiencing homelessness at alarming rates. With AB 12, our foster youth receive additional support services and housing options as they transition. So a little bit more about foster youth services and what we do. Again, the video you just watched provided a snapshot of the work that happens in our department. But I also wanted to share that along with these areas that you see, we also have tutors that provide services to eligible youth. We also work with our expanded learning team to make sure that our students are connected to additional resources. And we also provide behavioral support services in the classroom on a case-by-case basis for our elementary students. Again, a little bit of data. This is actually the number of youth that were in foster care in 2013 just in Sacramento County. As you'll see, there's a disproportionate number of children in care who are African American. And this is just from 2013. So if you look at the Sac City foster youth data from the enrollment of 13-14, again, not too far off from the data you just saw from Sacramento County. Again, a disproportionate number of our students are African American, followed by our Latino students. We in Foster Youth Services want to make sure that our support services are culturally relevant and mindful of issues related to equity and restorative justice. Again, a look at just our enrollment of foster youth over the last few years. Student enrollment of foster youth varies from year to year and fluctuates throughout the year. We tend to serve on average approximately 300 students at any given time. Just another graph of the number of foster youth who are receiving some sort of special educational services in our district. Part of our role is to ensure that students are receiving the services that they need. We do attend the IEPs for all foster youth when we can and try to ensure that we have the most up-to-date information on who the ed rights holder is of our students. We also do a lot of records retrieval and work closely with our district special education department. Graduation data. So the graph you're looking at is how foster youth services is required to report graduation data to the state. It is a little different from how districts report. We have to show the number of seniors who began the year as 12th graders and the number of seniors that actually graduated. Many of our students have an excess number of credits, so they are technically considered seniors. However, they are missing key courses that make them eligible to graduate. As you can see, we are averaging around 70 to 75% of our students graduating on time, which is higher than the national statistics. We help develop plans for students who are actually not going to graduate on time, whether it's attending summer school or creating a plan for them to return as fifth-year seniors. Measurable outcomes. So here you are looking at examples of the additional data we collect to keep track of the success and achievement of our students. Successes and challenges. Definitely want to touch on the fact that relationships are so key to making things work. We take pride in our working relationships with our youth, our parents, our service providers, and our community partners. There are so many different people involved in a foster youth life that it is important to make sure that we are all working together in the best interest of the youth. Youth voice is very important and drives much of the work that we do. Some of the challenges. When you are dealing with a foster youth, you are not just dealing with the young people, foster parents, and bio parents. You're also dealing with systems, child welfare, probation, minor counsel, and mental health systems. It is an ongoing challenge to make sure that the systems are all working together. One way we try to address these obstacles is definitely through open communication. I also work closely with the task force led by the Sacramento County Office of Education that allows space for the task force to address these issues on an ongoing basis. Local control funding formula. Another success that I did not mention earlier is the local control funding formula. In 2012 and 2013, Sac City Unified Foster Youth, along with their peers from Mount Diablo Unified, Elk Grove Unified, San Juan, and other foster youth advocates, had the opportunity to address the Senate and Assembly members on the importance of preserving funding for foster youth services programs throughout the state and having it taken out of the weighted pupil formula. As you can see, the students' voices were heard, and funding from the state level has continued to support foster youth services programs. Our young people were actively engaged in the local control funding formula and local control accountability plan feedback. One of the areas supported by foster youth services was modifying the PEV survey created by the district to be much more youth-friendly. For example, one of the 8 priority areas was around parent engagement, which is sometimes a trigger for some of our youth because they don't live with their parents. We modified the survey and worked with our young people to identify what parent engagement meant to them. So instead of using parents, we used the words such as a CASA, a mentor, or a supportive adult in their life, or a relative. Recommendations. So as you see before you, these were some of the recommendations that came out of our meetings with foster youth stakeholders in our foster youth and the PEV surveys. Foster youth stakeholders did decide they would advocate for an additional case management position that would help students have greater access to support services, which was written into the LCAP. Our Foster Youth Council. As you can see, it will consist of foster youth student representatives from various school sites, provide input regarding foster youth programming, as well as provide feedback to the district regarding progress towards LCAP goals that are specific to foster youth. We are super excited about this council, and they will also be used to help new foster youth who arrive on their campuses feel welcome. So the goal is that when we have new foster youth who are coming in, that these youth will have a point of contact at their school site that can help them kind of navigate the school, right? That they have someone that they're connected to right off the bat. Now we get to Foster Youth Board policy. So a little bit of the background. Currently, Sac City Unified does not have a board policy in place that addresses foster youth. The California School Board Association has put forth recommendations for an FYS policy. By adopting this policy, Sac City would be taking the lead in Sacramento County. This new foster youth board policy will align Sac City with foster youth legislation and ed code already in place. So what you see on the screen are several key legislative bills that have been in place for a number of years to protect the rights of foster youth. So AB 490 refers to allowing foster youth to remain in their school of origin for the duration of the school year, and also gives foster youth immediate enrollment into school without having the necessary documents that districts require. And what this would mean is that if a foster youth was placed into a home outside of their school of residence, they would have the right to remain at that school for the remainder of the school year, but then they would have to move on to the school of residence where they were now living. And so with that, we then have AB 167, which refers to providing our foster youth an alternative option who have had school placement changes during their 11th or 12th grade year to obtain a high school diploma based on state requirements as opposed to the district. There are specific eligibility requirements in order to qualify for this. So this bill came out of noticing that there were very low graduation rates and dropout rates for foster youth. And many times our youth are losing credits because they're being moved so often. And it's very hard to catch up. So with this law now, it is allowing this youth to potentially obtain a high school diploma based on the state requirements, which is about an 80 credit difference. It does not give them the option to apply to a four-year college, though, because it is eliminating the A through G requirements. AB 1933 extends AB 490 and allows foster youth to now remain in their school of origin, as well as matriculate to the feeder pattern school for the life of their dependency case. So now foster youth no longer have to move on to the new school of their residence at the end of the school year. They now have the right to remain in their school of origin regardless of where they live and move on to the feeder pattern school as long as they are in the foster care system. And lastly, we have AB 1909, which requires the district's LEA to provide notification to a foster youth child welfare worker and minor counsel 10 days prior to an IEP manifestation, suspension, behavior, or expulsion hearing. And part of that came out of that many of our foster youth were having expulsion hearings without having adequate representation at those meetings. And so now with this law, it requires that I notify their counsel and their child welfare worker. Engagement around the foster youth board policy. As you can see from this slide, there is extensive engagement done with foster youth and foster youth stakeholders. Here are the key points of the new foster youth board policy that align with current legislation and are things that we are already doing in the foster youth services department. So school climate would provide guidelines for a safe and supportive school environment for foster youth. The district liaison, designated district representative for foster youth per AB 490. Enrollment, keeping students in their school of origin and ensuring timely and appropriate enrollment into school. Effects of absences on grades, foster youth are not penalized for approved or court-ordered absences. Transfer of coursework and credits, all credits are accepted when a foster youth transfers in or out of a school. Graduation requirements, addresses delay in earning high school diploma and dropout prevention per AB 167. Outstanding fees, provides options for foster youth to clear their school debt. Eligibility for extracurricular activities, building school connectedness, and provide priority for foster youth where appropriate. Collaboration information sharing, creates a continuous circle of support and helps streamline service delivery between schools and placement agencies. And the local control accountability plan, monitors academic progress and district-wide support services for foster youth. The one area that we are not doing uniformly is the issuing of partial credits. We will work with stakeholders to develop protocol for issuing partial credits in the administrative regs. Next steps. So our goals for next steps is hopefully to return on September 4th for a second read and possible approval. Work with our foster youth stakeholders on the administrative regulations. Again, we have several foster youth ambassadors who have been identified to serve on the Foster Youth Council. We will work with our school registrars and counselors to develop protocol for issuing partial credits and continue to look for funding to increase services to foster youth. Thank you again for your time this evening. I hope this presentation was informative and gave you a better understanding of the Foster Youth Services Department, our youth, and the need for a Foster Youth Board policy. I am now open to any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Before we take questions from my colleagues on the board, do we have any questions from the public? No? I see Mr. Gladney.
Mr. Gladney.
Good evening, Terrence Gladney. Oh, I get 10 minutes and 40 seconds. Better reset the clock. I remember I'm a DAC representative for Cabrillo, and I remember when Ms. Holmes came and presented to the DAC, the first question I had with, LCAP specifically identifying foster youth as one of the targeted groups was, where they currently receive their funding. And I was surprised to hear that they're almost completely funded by grants. I think it's very important for us as a school district to identify our priorities with our spending. So, I haven't heard too many discussions around foster youth or any of the targeted groups in the budget discussions. So I think that we need to start there. There's no way that they should be waiting to find out if they're approved for a grant to find out if they're going to have sufficient staffing. And I remember when I was up here advocating for New Leon, I saw disproportionately that youth services and family engagement were targeted on the pink slip list. So if we have pillars around family engagement and college and career readiness, let's let our money start there and let's let the budget discussion start there and identify our priorities there and then talk about the deficiencies in other areas because our kids have many deficiencies and we should not be replicating them, to the people who are serving them directly. We shouldn't start the discussion with how many central office staff do we need, at administrative levels if they're not having their hands on their children. So let's start there. I do want to thank them for their work because I know they do tremendous work. I know that Britt is, all over the place as well, and they need help. So it's up to you guys as our representatives and our elected officials to, speak with us and say that this is our priority and put the funding behind it. I know that, we keep talking about the first year of the LCAP was a test year or kind of get it together, but we really need to get it together right now. We don't have any more pilot years. These kids don't get to do 12th grade over or 4th grade, and I'm pretty consistent in saying that because, you guys know very specifically my experience. So, support these youth and let's change those numbers that were presented on the beginning of the slides. I mean, that speaks very clearly as to where our priorities should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gladney. Questions from any of my colleagues? I don't have the things. Mr. Arroyo. And it shrinks. Member Arroyo.
Thank you, President Wu. Just a quick question. Number one, comment, thank you for all the work that you do. I will not belabor the importance of the work that you do. But the question that I had was on the work that you're doing and then considering the fact that these students have to leave your hands to be in the hands of other staff, right? I mean, teachers, school employees, and the like. To what degree do they have the capacity or the training or the development to really deal and appreciate the challenges that foster youth come with so that they are properly educated by them? And so over the last few weeks, we've been talking about how we're going to be dealing with our new approach to SES here in the district and so on and so forth. And I think that there's an overlap I think that we can learn about as we start thinking about how to implement the emotional learning throughout the district. And I think that if we're talking about services for foster youth, I think that this level of experience and knowledge that you have needs to be part of that dialogue as well, as we are starting to think about how do we integrate training, professional development throughout the district. So it's more of a comment. It's not, some sort of questions because I would like to get a little bit better understanding of how it will be a little bit more integrated.
I think the key word is integration as well. When we're talking about 300 students around at any given time around the entire district, it's really easy for them to fall off a priority list of an administrator or of a teacher unless they're directly dealing with an issue with a student. And so I think for us in all of our youth engagement and youth development efforts is how do we integrate in our social emotional learning work, in our restorative justice. Foster youth are oftentimes disproportionately affected by punitive discipline as well. So I think that the key piece is how do we integrate and keep those conversations at the forefront.
And is there any specific training or professional development that we need to keep in mind as we move forward with this integration?
Yeah, I think that the trauma-informed piece is really important. Aaliyah does a really amazing job of providing kind of practical sort of who to call type trainings in terms of if you have a foster youth with an issue. But the piece that I hear from you and the piece that we're really passionate about is how are we proactive? And I think the trauma-informed piece is important for all of our students, but especially our foster youth. And as we're talking more about restorative justice and how are we going to identify students sooner, our teachers and our administrators definitely need to understand the effects of trauma, whether it's the trauma of school push-out or the trauma of being in foster care or even just the trauma of living in an urban community. And so there's some really good training that we already do around that, and I think it's just about how do we integrate it and make it available for everybody who needs it.
Well, lastly, I mean, I think that there is I won't speak for any of my fellow board members, but I think that there will be a consensus that there's an interest to make sure that that happens. And I think that I would just put it out to my fellow board members and the district staff that at least from my perspective, I would like to see it go beyond the goodwill and intent. This is what we want, but then how do we cooperate? What do we really do to make sure that it happens? Is there a timeline? Is there a schedule? Is there teachers are getting ready to start a new school, for example. They have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of priorities, and it's a lot easier to say, let's just have something else for them to have professional development on. But it needs to be scheduled. It needs to be worked coherently. So I would love to hear more ideas from your perspective as well and from all sides as to how do we really implement it, because I think it's time that we start moving beyond goodwill and intent, of course, what we want, to actually having something that we're starting to see being developed throughout the district.
Thank you, Member Arroyo. Member Rodriguez?
Hi. Well, it's no doubt that foster youth is more of a global issue for any community. So I thank you for the work that you do and the work that we do here at Sac City, and then in collaboration with the community that is all involved in foster youth. So as you were going through your presentation, I was going through the policy. And so I have two questions. One is the Youth Council. That is created by the district. We've created that.
So
Foster Youth Council.
Yes, so it's created through our department. And so our goal, hopefully, is exactly what I said, that these youth will be working on issues specific to foster youth within the district, that they'll be looking at the LCAP and providing feedback on how things are going from their perspective, that we can then hopefully come back and share.
Okay, so, and this is new. It's
Yes.
a new thing. So what I would recommend then is that we put that into the board policy that you've created here, because it's not in here. So something to the effect of the district may allow for the creation of a foster youth council to deal with these XYZ issues and topics. This is the scope of work. And who would be the stakeholders of part of that group, because if it's not written somewhere, it doesn't exist. So, you know, we all don't know how much time we have here with us, and so I'd hate for all the good work that you're doing for it to go away if you're not here to make sure that that youth council exists and it continues. So put it in the policy.
Thank you.
Now, a question about the policy that was written on the outstanding fees. It says in here that the foster youth will do voluntary work to pay off any outstanding fees. Is that something that we offer to other youth in the district? Maybe because they're low income, not necessarily because they're foster youth?
Yeah, it is. This has come out directly from Ed Code, so it's not specific to foster youth. But since the policy is specific to foster youth, we wanted to really highlight that. I think the difference for many of our foster youth is that they don't have control always over how they keep track of their belongings. And so when they're moved, it's oftentimes up to a foster parent to return books, and the foster parent is oftentimes on to the next set of young people that are in their home. So that is directly out of Ed Code, and is open to other students as well, but we wanted to highlight that opportunity specifically for foster youth here.
So I wouldn't want to give the impression that foster youth are being allowed certain privileges that other youth are not allowed to in this policy. So it would make me feel a little bit more comfortable if we could put consistent with, state statute affording other public school students the same privilege, something to that effect. So that way we're not singling out that foster youth only get this.
Right.
Because the last thing you want foster youth to feel is singled out. So I would just say, I'm very sensitive to language that is used. I mean, even in the video, is sensitive to, the last statement by the young man who said that, he had these challenges in his life. It's like if we always talk about how many challenges we have or obstacles we have, we always are coming from that deficit perspective. If we change our language and we say, these are circumstances that I've overcome, then that gives a student or gives a person a better place to start from. So that's my rationale behind asking for making sure we have some parity across the board with all students and not singling out our foster youth. So those were my two recommendations. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Member Cuneo.
Thank you, President Wu. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a couple questions. So we had in 2013-14, we had 28 seniors starting the year and 19 who graduated. Roughly the same budget as you presented tonight? Roughly the same budget numbers that you presented tonight as last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you give me a sense then, under the obvious fiscal constraints you have, like how much interaction are you having with these kids? Are we like meeting with them monthly if a kid's kind of fallen off track, or do we just not have the resources to do that? Or can you just give me a genuine and real a sense of what you are doing to make sure kids graduate? And I know you're under extreme fiscal.
So actually, we are meeting with our students on a pretty consistent basis. I have several specialists who are assigned to the school sites that are there about usually once a week. They usually spend the whole day. So they are seeing students on a consistent basis. We are doing planning around making sure they do get out. Sometimes students are coming in the middle of the year. So sometimes we have to work with from where they're at. And so if they're coming in with a credit deficit, our goal is to then create a plan to help them catch up in order to be able to graduate. So sometimes that does mean having them have to attend summer school or returning as a fifth-year senior. But there is some pretty frequent contact.
So would it be weekly, monthly? I mean, would all of these kids say, I met with somebody every month to discuss my progress towards graduation? Would that be fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah, independent living program contract says 6 months, and our students are meeting with their case manager at least monthly, and many students weekly. One of the things we did in the LCAP was worked with the stakeholders to request an additional case manager, and our plan is to put that case manager into middle school. So what happens is we do an amazing job of case managing our 11th and 12th graders because we know the urgency is there, and that's where our focus has been in the past, given our budget restraints. But by the time we get them in 11th and 12th grade, they may have the credits to be seniors, but they don't have the necessary courses. They've bounced all over the county. And so by catching them earlier and really working on 7th, 8th, and then that transitional 9th year, we're hoping that not only will they be credit eligible seniors, they'll actually be truly eligible for graduation. And I think that will catch most of ours that are not graduating. So those that are there, we're not losing throughout the year. Most of them, when they come in that 12th grade year, they're just not as prepared as they should be. Does that help?
Yes, that's very helpful. I appreciate that. I guess I'll say a couple of comments too, and I'll make a pitch. I do think the state mandated that foster youth are a priority, and I think we need to follow that mandate. I don't always agree with the state, but in this case, I do. I would also make a pitch. So I'll just give you a little background. I was a CASA of a kid, 2 kids actually. One kid who I met when I was he was 10 or 12, I forget now. Anyway, he's 22. We're still friends. We go to dinner very regularly. And being in delinquency court every day too, I've sat in the chair numerous times when children are carted off to group homes, often against their express wishes, but sometimes it's necessary, oftentimes not. So I think a lot of the research will bear me out. If there is going to be more funds, I'd really push for mentoring, some sort of stable, district-funded, district-supervised mentorship program for these kids. I think the difference that actually one caring adult can make in their lives is tremendous when they have so much insecurity and turbulence and lack of just continuity. Just that one. And I think a lot of the research is starting to bear that out too, that I've seen. So if we are going to start increased funding and you're going to, get out your bureaucratic knives and try to get some more money for your office, I would really push it to look into like a holistic, mentoring system that we can utilize to get these kids the support they need. And I thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cuneo. Vice President Hansen.
Also, thank you for your fine work in this area. Having spent my early years working in a lot of foster youth programs when I was in college, and really saw the impact of the real world on children's lives. And statistics are really sobering when you see what the trajectory is for the majority of the foster children, those in our care and those without. So, I'll second what Mr. Gladney said. I mean, we have a responsibility with the new LCFF to put funding, it should be district funding, so it's not just grant funding, but we should prioritize looking to spend some of our own general fund dollars into these programs, so we start beefing them up, and that's in compliance with the LCFF. The questions I had, I wanted to hear more about the partial credits, because I know that that's a big situation when foster youth are moving from home to home, in and out of the district, potentially other places. How are the problems that we're having now? And you mentioned that the partial credit piece wasn't fleshed out yet all the way. Is that for figuring out credits within our district if a student moves from one school to another within Sac City, or is it only when it's outside of our district? Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes, so we do a really awesome job of providing stability within district when students transfer, and in fact, we'll really try to work with the school of origin to not transfer out a student unless it's absolutely necessary, and if there needs to be a transfer, how do we do that at the end of a semester? We also do a really good job of accepting partial credits from other districts when they come in, and we place them on the transcript. What we don't have is an actual protocol to how we are going to issue partial credits when our students leave. So it varies from registrar to registrar because we just don't have the policy yet. And so we're hoping that the policy will allow us to then take the time during the administrative regulation process to work with registrars and counselors and develop, this is going to be how we as Sac City deliver partial credits for our students. It becomes problematic when students come from places like El Centro because they're coming in, a lot of times they may have been there in juvenile hall for a period of time and they receive four credits, or they're leaving, they may get to El Centro in the middle of the school year and have the opportunity to make up the credits there, but we need a uniform way to be able to send them to whatever their next receiving school is going to be, whether it's juvenile school or court school or even another district school, with the work that they've done to date. I think AB 490 has done a great job of trying to eliminate as many transfers. When we first started this work, kids would be bounced around with no regard for where you lived or what school you attended. So we've cut down a lot of that. But in those isolated cases that kids do have to move, we need a uniform process to be able to deliver credits.
Mm-hmm. And so is that done at a county consortium, like with other registrars here in the county, or is it a state organization of registrars? Or
so it's there's a lot of guidelines and recommendations about how you can do that, but ultimately it's district responsibility. The regs say you will accept and you will give partial credits, but they don't tell us what that's going to look like. And then we have issues, of course, like some schools are on quarters, some schools have block schedules, some schools have 6 periods, and so it gets really, the state has not said that you must do it this way, but they've said you must do it. So we're hoping that we can work with our registrars, at least internally. We have a really awesome relationship with other districts, so when kids move locally, we work it out, but we'd prefer a more uniform process so that we don't have to, doesn't take as much time for my staff to have to do that. It's something that becomes automatic in the way we do business.
And we definitely also want to eliminate, because what oftentimes happens is that the youth have to repeat the entire class all over when they really shouldn't have. If they came in with 4 credits of the first semester of English, that means they only need 1 credit left. And oftentimes they're told, no, you have to take the whole semester all over again. And so that will also help eliminate some of that and give them some alternatives to make up that 1 credit or half a credit in order to finish.
The teachers know the students in their class that are foster youth?
Sometimes. I think it depends. I think one of the things is that we want to respect our youth's privacy. Not all youth want everyone to know that they're foster youth. Oftentimes when we do large group get-togethers in our ILP classes, most kids will say, I didn't know you were a foster youth. And so it depends. I think sometimes we try to be mindful that we might say, hey, especially with elementary, this young baby is coming who's new. They are foster youth. We want to make sure that they feel welcome. We have a staff person who's amazing who will actually go out and meet the student and help them in the classroom, help them get adjusted to the school site. So yeah, so we do try, as much as we can, but.
We also flag them in Infinite Campus, so a teacher could go in and look at their record and they would know that they were foster. And the County Office of Ed has a database that tracks all foster youth within the county that we interface with on a regular basis, so that as new students come in, we're able to let administrators know, and then we kind of leave it up to the administrators to then share as they see fit with their school staff. But it is an Infinite Campus if they.
Okay, thank you. Well, that definitely sounds like an important place to spend some time, but also a very complicated one. So I'll look forward to hearing more about that. And I think working just at least in a county consortium, I'd assume probably most of foster youth at least probably stay generally in the county parameters, so you get the most kind of bang for your buck if you focus on working something out with the other districts, neighboring districts. How many foster youth participated in this year's LCAP, completed the survey? Do you have like a rough estimate, 5, 10, 20?
About 80, I believe. We did, we held some focus groups. So we did large groups at the high schools and in our independent living classes, as well as we had some additional meetings in the community to gather that feedback from our students. That's
excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope if we have a good high number like that next year, that would be great. Also, as we build out the LCAP, since it was just our trial year last year, try to make that better and better. Then Member Rodriguez mentioned the Foster Youth Council, because I was really interested in that too. So I think her points were right on. So I'll just say I agree. And then I was surprised that there's no foster youth policy in any of the school districts in Sac County. So part of me is surprised, but the other part of me is like, well, that's an opportunity for us to be first, which I always like. So good. Let's keep moving along and let them follow us, our good lead. And then lastly, just because I know about this, our district did a construction project labor agreement with for the construction of our schools, and we employ We give opportunities for a half dozen to a dozen students every year to be part of our construction projects, to learn that as another potential career path. So students that are ready for college and career. So that's another thing. If there's students that are interested in that, maybe we can have some of them participate in that as well, because those are great jobs with high pay, high skills, pensions, health care. I mean, they've got all sorts of great opportunities that really could put somebody in a good spot for the rest of their lives. So I want to just learn more about that as another opportunity. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hansen. Second by the Apple, Member Royal.
Yes, and it's going back to the first comment that I had asked about. The training that you were mentioning that you do, is that available for teachers on request or staff? How would the staff go about requesting it or asking for that to happen?
So we have professional development calendar, and that when we offer professional development, we open it up to teachers, staff, administrators. We hold it usually during the after-school space. We do a lot of work with our integrated support or our student support and health services in offering trauma-informed training. I believe they have some maybe 4 or 5 trainings coming up throughout the school year with a community partner that is trauma-informed. So we open it up, we put it on the bulletin board, and then Aaliyah is always available to go out and do additional training at school site if folks need it. She does a lot of that out in the community. So
is it a one session training? How long is it? Just kind of get an idea.
So we try to offer have different options, and so the trauma training that Student Supports and Health Services is doing with Another Choice, Another Chance, I think maybe it can go anywhere from 4 hours to 8 to even 2 days. So I think they do a variety of options because not all sites are able to give that extensive time to their staff. We have in the past done a lot of in-service days too. It's reduced now, of course, with Common Core because teachers are just swamped with needing to learn all of the academic pieces. But I think once Common Core stabilizes and folks are feeling more comfortable, we can come in and do some training during those big, preschool in-services as well. We've done quite a few of those trainings in the past. So we're able to modify, depending on the needs of the site, anywhere from an hour training, kind of Foster Youth 101, to an in-depth 2-day trauma-informed training.
Okay.
Does that answer?
No, absolutely, it does. And I'm just trying to understand that the option is there and that it's open and available for anybody that wants to engage, or that the information is readily available for anyone that is interested. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Ms. Bell, Ms. Holmes. Looking at slide number 10, I was looking at the foster youth data enrollment, and in 2010, 2011, we're close to 600 students. 2013, 2014, not quite as many, 546. And I flip the page and I look at special education services. And 2010, 2011, greater than 25% of those foster youth were in needing special education services. And I noticed through the years, that's one of the major trends that I see on this chart, is that the number of students, notwithstanding the fact that there might be still plus or minus close to 600 students enrolled, have continued to diminish. And I like to think, because I can't help but think that not all our foster children need special education services, but that we're doing a better job at assessment. I think there's a kind of if they don't need it, it sticks them on a track that kind of set them up for the remainder of their lives. So I'm glad to see that trend, that there are not as many, less than 20% now, 15% are in special education service, requiring special education services. So I'm glad. I just want to commend you for doing the hard work so that our kids are really fully benefiting from their education. Turning to our board packets, I wanted to point out I think I want to piggyback on what Member Rodriguez was saying about looking like we're discriminating against, not against, but on behalf of foster children to the detriment of others. On page 5 of the proposed board policy, which begins, I think the first major heading is outstanding fees.
Yes.
If you drop down to right above collaboration and information sharing, you start off the paragraph by saying Ed Code 48853.5 encourages districts to collaborate with other agencies to provide services to foster youth. So you kind of summarize what the Ed Code requires. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you launch into to address the needs of foster youth, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about some of the other policies, outstanding fees, eligibility for extracurricular activities, you don't similarly preface what the Ed Code provides for and then fit it in. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when you just end with the Ed Code, you don't have a sense as to what really the Ed Code requires, but that the Ed Code allows for this. And so I think that if you take Member Rodriguez's comments, it can look like you're discriminating in favor of foster youth. But if you, as she says, if you summarize or one line what the Ed Code allows for and then fit the policy within what the Ed Code provides for, then we'll be moving away from that discriminatory, not practice, but on its face looking discriminatory. So that's my suggestion. So how you can kind of adapt that in order to meet Member Rodriguez's concerns. So I look forward to September 4th. I commend you for all your hard work. I look forward to, and I congratulate our foster youth for working so hard and being engaged. And I think that with their efforts, with what we can adopt in the coming weeks at board meetings, we will really be moving towards what the state anticipates in providing the funding for our foster youth. Thank you for your efforts. So you're no longer a novice, and you did fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
All right, so that was the first reading. We will be looking forward to that coming before us again. Next, I'd like to call up item 9.2, approve the resolution number 2805, exempting Hiram Johnson School-Based Health Center from local zoning ordinance. Ms. Cronick? Ms. Allen? Ms. Allen says Jim Dobson, but I know you're not Jim Dobson, so you're welcome to come up anyway.
So, good evening, President Wu, Superintendent Noguchi, and board members. Tonight we're here to have a first reading on the resolution that you have in front of you. And I'm going to let Kathy Allen to present this, since this sort of fits into her domain with facilities.
Okay, so this is another little thing that we need to adopt, have the board adopt to move forward with the health-based center over at Hiram Johnson. So this goes back several years. We've entered into an MOU with WellSpace to provide school-based health services at Hiram Johnson. And if you recall, we did bring to you a resolution at one point asking you to let them present plans to the City of Sacramento versus Division of State Architects. So we've done that. You voted for that. They've been designing and submitted. And then the last little thing that we need to take care of here is to exempt the project from the local zoning ordinance. I know it sounds kind of funky, but typically where schools are located are zoned residential. So we get the privilege of exempting our school sites from the residential zoning ordinances to accommodate the use at that site. So what we need to do at the request of the city and from WellSpace is to request the area where the project is to be exempt from local zoning ordinances so that they could actually operate the health-based center on Hiram Johnson. So it's kind of simple, but multi-page resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Do we have any, it's just conference, but we can still take public comment? No. And who might that be?
Pills dispensed.
Oh, my gosh, Mr. Marletti. Welcome.
Once again, I'm Ralph Merletti, and I was wondering if there was going to be a slide presentation with this. Maybe that was done in the past. I commented about this at a meeting earlier this year. And so once again, I will say, so far from what I've heard of it and the main tenant that's going to be there, it sounds pretty good. But be careful of any business interests of any other possible partnerships. Let's have this health facility be a center of life rather than anything else. Again, let's have this a good, healthy, life-affirming place, and it'll add so much to Hiram Johnson High School. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marletti. Member Hanson, Vice President Hanson.
Thank you. I went and did a tour of this facility a few months ago, so I'm glad to see that we're moving along with this. So I just think we should be expeditious with this, and I'll look forward to having it in front of us in a couple weeks.
Thank you. So my question is, will this be back before September 4th? September 18th? September?
It'll be back at the next board meeting on the 4th, I think that is.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Cronick, Ms. Allen.
Thank you.
Do you have a question? Could be. Worth it, Steve? All right. That takes care of item 9.2. Item 10, we received the information, the 10.1 business and financial information, purchase orders for June 15th through July 14th.
We have one comment on this item on the financial information from Maria Rodriguez.
All right. Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, President Wu, members of the school board, and Dr. Noguchi. I just had a quick question about, I believe it's the report of the things that we've made purchase orders for, and on page 15 of 30, I have a couple of questions that I would like to have responded to on the website if possible. And it's the last item, is this the right time, I hope, but the item that's cost $66,000 to Tembo Incorporated for web-based school choice calculator. And the three questions I have is, who are the intended beneficiaries of this web-based school choice calculator? So who will be the users of it? How is the progress of this program coming along? And how much is $66,000 of the total cost? I guess, what is the total cost of this project? I'm particularly interested, I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but I've always been interested in the fact that the school district has had a goal to have what they had called a data dashboard. And I've seen a presentation in the past of that data dashboard. This may be totally different, but it's not clear from this paperwork. And I'm interested in if that's been dropped or if that's still continuing. And one of the things I've always been interested in is to find a way to have qualitative rather than just quantitative information that people can use to judge their schools. And I will put a plug in for parent engagement. As we look at schools and as we try to make choices about schools, I would like it if there was some measure of parent engagement in those schools, because what we measure actually happens. And I think parent engagement is a parent and family and community engagement, not just parents, especially when we're talking about foster children today. Anyway, that type of engagement I think is immensely important to the schools, and I'm totally, as I always say, satisfied with the school district. I'm one of your biggest fans. I have not ever had a teacher, administrator, or anyone that I have not loved, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Maria? So let me, I can respond a bit to that, and we certainly will get more information to you. I do know that Timbo is the company by which we are working to complete the GTS, which is the Guide to Success, which is your data dashboards that you were just speaking to. This is part of that project. While there's been a little lag in some work as we are transitioning to the new superintendent, it's very much still part of the agenda and very much still part of the movement. And this represents still the movement of the creation of the data dashboards that I believe we all spoke about June 17th at the June 17th board meeting. So we can further look into that if you need to, and feel free to call my office and we can get further details if you need.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Item 11.0, future board meeting, September 4th here at 4:30, September 18th here at 4:30. With that, we're at item 12.0. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Student member Saito. Thank you. Vice President Pritchett seconds. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nobody better oppose. Thank you. We are adjourned.